a purity that has endurance rather than one that is just for a little bit and then we get caught up into things of the world and stuff like that. And so for you, tossing this your way is like, as a leader of young people and someone who's still relatively young yourself, what does it look like for you within the context of young adulthood as you're finding your purpose in all of this, to prioritize purity in your faith and intentions and to be a person of integrity, and what it looks like to build that and implement that in your life?
Yeah. Man, I think when it comes, I mean, purity is it's an ongoing decision, journey, process. And I say decision first because I feel like everything that we do flows from our desires. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we see, whether it's leaders falling, whether it's struggles ourselves, struggles with purpose, struggles with clarity, struggles with sin, it all starts at a desire level. And so when you're talking about, man, purity and integrity and enduring and maintaining a certain purity in what you're doing and pursuing your purpose, it all, I think, starts very practically for me with submitting my desires to God in a genuine way. And so we all have desires constantly creeping up. And depending on how you're wired and, you know, what you've experienced, a lot of our desires might be different. But I think some of the similar ones that we have are a desire for significance, you know, a desire to be recognized. And that's why I even said, wow, telling somebody that their purpose is to glorify God most of the time feels really shallow. And feels like it wouldn't be the most fulfilling thing in the world. I think that's what I struggled with early on, because I was raised in church, and I went on like some good streaks of like really wanting to follow Jesus in high school, and then fell completely off in college, and for a bunch of years after that, so where I had spent a good, 7 or 8 years from, I guess like 17 to 24, where I was just completely not walking with Jesus. And it was all rooted in this idea of, I feel like my plan will make me happier than God's plan. And if I really submit everything to him, I feel like he's going to have me doing stuff I don't want to do. And I think that's kind of at the root of most of us, man, whether it's keeping us from following him, keeping us from obeying him, whether it's polluting our desires, even when you're walking in ministry, because there is a constant denying of yourself. There's a constant taking up of your cross. Like Jesus meant those things when he said it. And I feel like we can follow him without those things. And he said, anyone who's not willing to do that is not worthy of following me. And so I take those things seriously, man. And so when I feel desires creeping up, like not feeling like doing ministry, for one, you know what I mean? Like wanting to just do other stuff. I remember, and it may sound shallow on the surface because I'm not talking about like, I don't know, some like heinous desire, right? But I feel like most of the time, the challenges that we're having they start really in the smaller desires. And our decisions are coming from smaller desires, not like, you know, this inward desire of, you know, heinous evil, you know, but it's something that appears not that bad. And so we were in Puerto Rico for our anniversary trip this year. My first time out there. It was beautiful, man. I was out there on the beach like, I really like this. This is dope. I wish I could just live here. Why can't I just live here? We can all like work. We can find a job where we work remote. It's whatever it is. Like, and I'm gonna start going through these things in my mind, and it like just dawned on me, and I was reminded like, no, God has me in Atlanta as a young adult pastor, like over this particular congregation. Like he's called me and placed me here, and my life is not my own. And it's moments like that, being reminded of that and submitting to that I feel like are necessary to maintain any type of purity. So whether that's you're an influencer, right? And you're always going to have opportunities to, whether it's producing a particular type of content. I know a lot of young adults struggle with that because the content that gets attention from most people is not always the content that's the cleanest or coming from the purest motive. And when you're making, whether it's a living on people's attention, man, when you're making a living on people's attention, the things that you are tempted to do for people's attention because of what people give their attention to for the most part, it ends up polluting some of those desires because the desires become, okay, do I desire to be pure in everything that I do, or do I desire to get this attention, right? And that's where I feel like some of the compromise starts happening, even if you may not be an influencer, but even in just what you post, right? Or the job that you want and the status that it communicates, right? And the things that you'll do to get it, or the things that you'll turn down because they don't seem to give this, status, give off a particular type of status. Yeah. And I remember, man, like being for a season, it's a long story, man, but for a season being a personal trainer and then like picking up some other hours at the gym, just like mopping floors and cleaning toilets but being so content. And I feel like that came from trusting God, knowing this is where he has me right now. And my desire, though I do desire to appear a certain way to people, my desire to please him and to be within his will is greater than that. And I feel like that's where it all has to start. When you can say, I trust that God has a better plan for me than I have for myself, that's the beginning of actually being able to have true purpose. And I feel like that's what we see all throughout Scripture. The people who are admirable in Scripture are the ones who didn't come up with the greatest ideas. They submitted to the greatest idea that God had for them, no matter how it looked. And so that's how I want to live my life. I don't want to live my life in a way that, felt really good to me and maybe looked good to other people, but that God wouldn't really write anything about. I want to live my life in a way that God feels is impactful. And if I just submit my desires to him, he's definitely going to do that. And so from a practical standpoint, a lot of times that for me, that just takes place through prayer. It takes place in the morning. Every morning I wake up, and the first thing that I do is I get out of bed, I go in the other room, I just sit there and have a conversation with God about what's going on in my heart, whether that's good stuff, whether it's I'm feeling distracted, whatever it is. But before I even open up the Bible or do anything like that, I have a conversation with him about what's going on in my heart. And even if it's, I don't feel like praying right now, I don't feel like reading right now, things like that. And he meets me there. And then I do the stuff that I know I'm supposed to do once I'm able to get those things out and just submit that to him in the moment. So